We're in the happy position that over recent weeks we've had a surge of membership applications, which is very gratifying. I want to thank you for applying to join the party and welcome you to our ranks. As you know, TUV takes a very principled stand about politics. We see ourselves as the opposition to the present shambolic system of government. We recognise that mandatory coalition can never work, particularly since a party at the top and heart of government, Sinn Féin, is not there to make Northern Ireland work, and therefore TUV is the constant thorn in the flesh of that failing system. And the wider we can build the party and the more support we can have, the more opportunity we have to unsettle this iniquitous system of government. And so it's something of a fight back against all the betrayals that have beset us. And I don't need to tell anyone, not least in the present pandemic, just how dysfunctional Stormont has been. And it's within that TV seeks to make a difference. And by your membership, you can help in that crusade to make a difference. So I'm sorry that in present circumstances we don't have our normal party functions and branch meetings, but I just wanted to greet you, to thank you for your application, and to look forward to getting to know you all and to working together in the cause that unites us. So thank you and good day. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, there's a supreme irony that this House this morning is celebrating the fact that the people of the United States, by a democratic process, are changing their government. The irony, of course, is that this House is the epitome of the very opposite. This House stands for the principle that you cannot change your government, that you cannot vote a party out of government. What we witnessed in the United States was the people of the United States deciding in their democratic fashion and right to change their government. What a contrast with this place, where because of the iniquity of mandatory coalition, you can never change your government. You can never vote a party out of government, so long as that party holds on to a handful of MLAs. So it is a supreme irony that without the least blush of embarrassment, this House rises to celebrate the fact that others can do what those who have spoken to date determine we should never be able to do, namely change our government. And of course the absurdity of our system of government is further illustrated by the fact that if they had the system we have in the United States of America, then we would have joint presidents Joe Biden and Donald Trump. How absurd would that be? How dysfunctional would that be? As dysfunctional as Stormont, of course. And yet that is the system.
Could I just remind the member that the matter of the day was agreed for to address the US presidential election. Could you stick to the motion, please?
Well, I thought I was. I was drawing the contrast. The people of the United States have been given the fundamental democratic right to change their government. We are denied it. I was pointing out that people of the United States will have a new, powerful president. Rather than a joint president. We are denied that. So I think the parallel, the point, is exactly on point, that the democratic exercise that many are celebrating in this House is the very thing denied to this House and to the people of Northern Ireland. As for Joe Biden, I do hope that he will come to the realisation that he needs to temper his overt nationalist empathy if he ever hopes to have any positive influence in Northern Ireland. And he needs to recognise and accept that Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom because of the will of its people. American people have expressed their will. Now it's time for their president
Members, time's up.
to acknowledge our rights.
Members, time is up. Thank you. And I call Jerry Carroll.
call Jim Allister.
Thank you. Minister, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it the case that the Vox Agency has been without a chair for over 2.5 years, without a chief executive for over 3.5 years, yet I see no reference to any of that in the statement? And more than that, is there a problem in the agency with absentee board members? I refer to the fact that the minutes of the Vox Agency suggest that Mr Ian McRae, formerly of this parish, who receives something like £6,000 a year to be a member of the Vox Agency, hasn't bothered to attend a single board meeting since October 2018. What action has been taken to deal with absentee board members?
Well, I thank the member for the question, and maybe he wasn't listening whenever the statement was being made. It's not like him. But the Council noted that sponsor departments are to seek approval from the finance departments for the recruitment process in terms and conditions of the post of Chief Executive of the agency, and that a recruitment process is being taken for a Chief Executive. Clearly there have been issues with the fact that there was no NSMC cover for the appointment of either Chair or Chief Executive, but that has been brought underway immediately.
And that concludes.
New approach made this boast. This agreement marks a new approach to government in Northern Ireland. How's that going, First Minister?
Well, given that we only came back on the 11th of January, much to the delight of the member, that we then faced into a global pandemic, I think, given that we're in a five-party coalition, we are dealing with the issues in front of us, and as leaders in our community of all five parties, we want to see resolutions happen. Sometimes it doesn't look too pretty. We accept that that is the case, but it doesn't take away the fact that we want to find solutions and we want to find a way forward, because we recognise that the people of Northern Ireland have put their trust in us.
Jim Allister, supplementary.
First Minister, wasn't last week's omni-shambles confirmation that even on what should be a unifying issue of public health, mandatory coalition, if it can't work on that, will never work, and that it's a cruel deception to the people of Northern Ireland, who deserve better, to pretend that it will?
No, I don't accept that. He'll not be surprised at that. As I've said, it was a very difficult week. It was a torturous week. But I think it is right that we try and take decisions which are balanced and proportionate, which take into account the enormous pressure that our healthcare staff are under, that our hospitals are under, but also recognises that people need to be able to earn a living, otherwise they fall into poverty and thereby fall into health outcomes that are very bad as well. So look, I make no apology for trying to get to a balanced and proportionate place, and I think that's where the people of Northern Ireland want us to get to too.
I call Tom Buchanan.
Mr. Speaker, the 6 pages of this statement wouldn't go far to paper over the gaping chasms in the Executive's approach. It contains some great words, if they weren't so empty, falling from the lips of the Deputy First Minister. Words like, the most powerful tool we have is our own behaviour and actions. Words like, to those who are considering going against the public health guidance and regulations, I ask you to think very carefully. Deputy First Minister, I think that invites the question from people still outraged by your behaviour in attending the Story funeral. How carefully did you think about that? Do you not think you could claw back some credibility for yourself in making these exhortations to others if you were to belatedly apologise, not for the undermining of the public message, but for your actions in causing the undermining of the public message?
Thanks to the member for his repeated question. I think I have answered this question on the floor of this House on many occasions, and I'm satisfied that I have nothing new to add to that. Can Corner.
I call Jerry Carl.
The murder of Pat Finucane was terrorist, brutal and extremely shocking, just like over 3,000 other murders. And yet when we compare and contrast the attention and the demands in respect of those, we look at the Finucane case. It's had Weston Park, it's had the Corrie inquiry, it had Silvio, it had the offer of a public inquiry, it had legislation specially drafted to deliver it, it had a criminal trial and a conviction. And when I contrast that with all the rest, the deficit is staggering. Compare that with those burned alive in Lamon, those who smothered under the rubble of Enniskillen, those butchered at King's Mills. If we want to talk about collusion, Mr. Speaker, then we need to talk about all the collusion. And that would include the collusion of some who have sat on benches in this House, who were leaders of the IRA, who doubtless colluded in multiple murders. What did Martin McGuinness know about the Enniskillen bombing? What did he know about the murder of Pat Gillespie? What did he know about countless other murders? So if you want to talk about collusion, then talk about it across the board. If there are those who colluded, then it's not a one-way street. Anyone involved in criminality deserves the rigours of the law. No exemptions, either for Sinn Féin or anyone else. And that should be the starting principle. But of course, what we have is a hierarchy, a Finucane elite, who think that they can demand what no one else gets, even when offered a public inquiry. No, we need an international judicial inquiry. Such is the elitism attaching to this matter. And of course, the bottom line is it's all about insatiability. They are insatiable. They will never be satisfied. They wouldn't even be satisfied with a public inquiry unless they got to write the outcome of it. That's the plain truth. And it's quite clear when they dismiss the very ideas of prosecutions. They're not interested in justice. They're interested in maximising the rewrite of history. And that is why, of course, this continues to be a boil that needs to be lanced and should have been properly lanced yesterday by the refusal at any stage